We live? Starting the timer. A boy. The fluffiest of boys.
Okay, I need someone to be realistic with me right now. I am trying to find jewelry to wear as a bridesmaid at my sister's wedding, and I am a dramatic bitch, and I am having to really fight the urge to have dramatic jewelry when the focus is not on me. So somebody needs to give me a number on a scale from 1 to 10 that I should be aiming for.
7.
For what? A scale for what? To say how dramatic you should go?
Yes.
I think you should limit it to 2 necklaces and simple earrings.
Um, I plan on doing only one necklace, but I've got a deep V in the back of my bridesmaid's dress, so I was going to do one of those backdrop necklaces.
Yes.
But also, I always have to fight the urge to do really dramatic earrings
Mm.
because of how short my hair is. Like today I was wearing dagger earrings that are the size of my hand.
That seems totally out of character. You probably
Those are
own
choice.
no other earrings like that. I say
Nope.
having seen your earring collection.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, so you see what we're working against.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go for it. His memory is running away from him.
Hello?
Something.
Hey
Something,
Sid, what's
something.
up? How's it going? Oh, that's right. Sid, is everyone else visible? Is everyone else audible? That's what it, yeah, that's what Ben is trying to say. Okay.
What? Ben, do you want me to give the recap since I have my notes?
If you wanted to, sure, go ahead.
So, Ren was in the library.
What?
Henry finds a book about the Blood Hunters written by Varric Garrus himself and finds out that they are prize their secrets above all else and are very protective of them.
Hang on, pause real quick. Okay. Do you hear me, Sid? There we go. Okay, I think I should be working. I'm seeing mic levels, so I should be.
Yeah, I had the stream open and I could hear you. So
Okay, excellent.
you want me to
can
finish
go
up?
ahead and resume. Yes.
Ren tries to talk to the ring, and there is a great anger and a great fear that are hiding and chasing each other. And then Ren tries to talk to the ring, and then the ring starts talking about starts reciting the shadow tree. So doesn't really get to talk to the ring. Call tries to find something to make them faster or harder to hit because terrified of the 3 hit points that they got last battle. Henry goes to the Hearts and finds out some information. What he specifically found out is that Vist was a part of the Light Hands. Shells and Trent needed a fall man for to kind of distract from the library. So they hired the Light Hands, and the Light Hands were like, Vist is kind of an asshole. We'll make sure he's where he needs to be for him to get caught, but make sure that no harm comes to him. But then he got real dead. So now the Light Hands don't like the Hearts. Henry comes back to tell Call and Ren and is very vague because if the Hearts go down for this, then Henry will also go down for his treasonous plans that he no longer is pursuing. So, we left off with trying to figure out how much do we sell out the Light Hands? Do we try to bring them to justice, or do we let them be because they might be doing more good than harm standing up for the little guy? And then we ended with trying to figure out what we were going to tell Zerka, etc.
Okay. Real quick, can everybody give a sound off to test volume, audio levels?
Absolutely can do. Am speaking right now.
Hello, hello.
Grandkids Roundup. Let's turn the sound up.
All right, Sid. Anybody too loud? Anybody too quiet? Waiting for. Okay, good. Alrighty. So, as you said, we ended with, decision time.
I think we're in Ren's room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last thing I've written down is that Henry's like, well, I think we should find out a little bit more before we decide to fully rat them out. Though we can maybe tell Zerka something vague of like things are going well, we're finding out stuff, but before we don't have anything, we don't have some things confirmed yet or something like that. But we also wanted to defer to Call some because Call knows more about Zerka than we do.
So, knowing Zerka, she won't be happy with platitudes of progress without definitive results, at least not for long. Now that we have information, I think at least some of it needs to be communicated to her. And at that point, the question just becomes how much. If we're worried about what this could indicate, I think we need to tell her that Vist was the fall man for set up by the Light Hands, but that the deal went south and the Light Hands tried to rescue their man. That is information that does not necessarily implicate anyone. I don't know how to elaborate on how we came across this information, and I don't want to lie to Zerka. But if we can figure out how to communicate that information, that is useful, good info that should be safe to give.
I agree. I think that's the best. I think that's a good amount of information to convey without saying who it came from, but I'm just trying to figure out what to say when she inevitably asks, "How do you know? Are you certain? How are you certain?"
That's what concerns me as well. I know what information to tell her, I just don't know how to tell her safely.
I mean, if you go by yourself to tell her, you could say that I found out, and but that I was not willing to share all of the details, so you personally don't know, and then gauge her reaction, and we can go from there.
Or I'm wondering, why can't we trust her with the source as well? I mean, she's too smart to not ask where it came from and not to push for that. Can we really not tell her where it came from and trust that she'll use that information wisely and hopefully try not to make consequences for Henry with the hearts?
That's a Henry question. I trust Zerka, but I also know that Zerka always plays to the best outcome of a larger situation. So I don't believe that Zerka does anything without considering it, and I always believe that her decisions are towards the greater good. But I do think it is possible, not probable, but possible, that Zerka might hold on to the information about Henry until it becomes useful to her to do otherwise. I trust Zerka. I just don't want to give... I want you to know all of the possibilities before you make any kind of decision.
I appreciate that. And I will remind you that I never said who the deal was between. And I know you have made assumptions based on context clues. And Zerka knows that you're smart. And even if you say that I didn't tell you where I got the information from, you would have a good guess because we're friends, because you know me. And so if you willingly don't tell her where you think the information is from, I mean, she's gonna probably know something is up because she, but I don't know how I can trust her when one of her people would be murdered if she took off her niqab. What has she done since the execution?
I think that's going a little too far. I the political landmines of an entire county are not something so easily swayed. And to do so in a method where the people who are at most risk can exact most change has to be done very, very carefully in order to protect those involved. So just because you don't see what she's doing does not mean that she is not doing anything for the betterment of those people. And also, Etzli follows Zerka knowing exactly what Zerka's doing. Etzli, I think, knows more than the rest of us. If Etzli sees fit to follow Zerka knowing what the risks are for herself, I trust both of them that there is a reason why they do that.
To be clear, I was asking, what has she done? Not rhetorical, what has she done? Do you know that anything is happening? I don't expect you to share any details, but
I have educated guesses. I have no concrete information. That is typically how Zerka organizes activities and jobs within the dozen anyway. Everything is need to know until you need to know. So the fact that I'm not actively involved or actively informed does not mean that something isn't happening. It just means that I'm not helpful to that situation at that moment.
well, then I think that, and Henry like puts his hands over his face and then looks at Call and says, I understand that point of view. I understand the closeness of this chosen family. I am not questioning Captain Dawn, but I don't know her. And this is very dangerous. And I know that I made decisions, but I don't think there's a reason to tell her if nothing's going to happen. Because if you tell her what your educated guess is about this information, and then she acts on it, I'm going to have to leave. And I will do that, but there's no reason for her to know at this point. And if there becomes a time when she needs to know, then we can tell her and I can make my preparations. Is that a fair compromise?
How about this? The next time we make a report, I will let you make the report.
Okay.
You can choose what information is conveyed. I will not lie to Zerka, but I will not gainsay you.
Thank you.
If she asks me for a report the next time I see her, I will let her know that you have done some work on your own with the intent to catch us up on it later, and that I will gather all three of us to come make a report as soon as possible. And I will avoid seeking out any opportunities to make a report. How does that work?
I think that's a good plan.
Okay.
I think Henry goes over to Call and puts a hand on their shoulder and says, I'm really sorry that I put you in this position. I understand the severity, and thank you.
Call looks, I think a little mollified at that, and nods, and is just like, I appreciate it. I won't pretend that Zerka is the easiest person to communicate with, but she has changed my life and I do trust her with mine. But I also don't want to see harm come to my friends.
I'll get out.
Carl's gonna actually laugh and then give Henry a big hug, and then do that thing that they do sometimes that I don't think I've actually articulated, but like do a little bit of a wiggle so that like
Oh.
Henry's just kind of getting like wiggled around.
That's so cute. Henry definitely laughs at that. Big belly laugh.
Good. I feel like dwarves just have to be really good at belly laughs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was real heavy. Okay. I think Henry looks over at Ren and is like, do you have anything to say?
As you are the one with the information, Henry, and as you are the one most closely related to Captain Dawn, Call, I think I have the least to say on this matter, so I am happy to let you make the decisions.
Okay. Thank you. Ben, what time is it in game? Would it be like noon-ish because Henry went to breakfast at the Hearts?
I think that's about right. It is somewhere around midday. I have a small memory of y'all getting lunch last session, but either way, it's still early afternoon, if afternoon at all.
Yeah, something I completely forgot in the recap, and this is a travesty, and I apologize profusely, Bronwyn. I forgot in my recap to mention that Call noticed there was an invisible person walking with Great Servant Rawl. And then they're gonna go talk to Barnabas about it, even though it's kind of not polite for someone to do that, but Call's gonna feign ignorance and be like, I don't know anything about magic. What are you talking about, Master Barnabas?
Blinky.
So, yeah, there's that's happening too.
I was playing with my die, and I accidentally flung it across the floor, and it landed on a 20.
Oh, nice.
And Arthur
Very
sniffed
nice.
it, so it is blessed.
Yes.
Blessed crit.
That's great.
That would be a good, like, channel title. Blessed crit.
Blessed crit.
hmm.
Bless.
I feel like that needs to be a party of all clerics, though, or at least everyone,
Or
at
paladins.
least all people that have the spell bless. Um,
Um, cool. Well, I think there's stuff that Henry kind of wants to do. Unless we want to go report to Captain Dawn now. Is there anything that Ren and Call are wanting to do today?
Cal does want to talk to Barnabas.
I mean, we're right here. They could go and see if he's in the office.
is that what's happening?
Yeah.
All right, head up them stairs then.
Okay.
Henry's absolutely staying in Ren's room, wanting to hear a full fucking report when Call gets back and make sure that Call knows that.
Ren is also
Um,
staying in his room with Henry. He looks like he's dying a little bit.
All right.
All right. Call is going to tentatively go upstairs and knock on Barnabas's door.
There's no answer for a little bit, and then you hear shuffling in the room, and then you haven't seen him a whole bunch of times, but Barnabas opens the door and he looks tired.
Call's going to say, Master Barnabas, I'm so sorry if I interrupted. I was wondering if I could ask you a couple of questions. It's not urgent though, so I can come back another day.
No, please, come in. And
Thank you.
he just gives you clear, or he just walks away from the door and to let you in, and goes and sits on his fancy chair. I don't know if it's sitting or laying, honestly.
It's a valid question.
Loafing.
Sure, why not?
The centaur is loafing.
7'3", very buff centaur is loafing.
We'll go with that.
So yes, he. Yeah, go ahead. He. So yeah, he. I'm gonna say sits. And gestures to a more humanoid-shaped chair, and just kind of waits.
So Call first closes the door behind them and then goes and sits down in the chair. They look a little tentative, but not they look a little tentative. And they're going to take a minute to collect themselves and figure out their wording, and then they're going to say, under what circumstances would invisible people be allowed free access to the university?
He kind of raises an eyebrow, and says, "First, if they were invisible, how did you know they were there?"
Invisible does not mean intangible.
Give me an insight check.
Okay. Ah, man, that's a whole 6.
Okay. You've already noticed that he is tired, but that's still all you can read from his face.
God damn it.
He says, "So you touched them?"
Yes.
He nods to himself slightly. Well, I would assume from your position you do not have control of arcane arts.
No, I am rather unversed in the subject.
He nods a little bit and he goes, well, invisibility is a rather simple trick to master. It does not take years upon years of study to achieve that trick. As a matter of fact, it is often seen as one of the bits of magic that is but a trick. That being said, there are dozens of students that attend the university who can make themselves or others invisible. Were they, as far as you know, were they alone?
I have only an educated guess for what I'm about to say, but I am under the impression that they are rather frequently in the company of someone very specific.
That's not his dice. Just a second.
Call's trying their best to ask this question without being offensive to anybody.
Paul is doing a great job, I think.
Paul is doing much better than I would have anticipated, just because this is a sticky situation.
Call's trying to leave it open so if Barnabas says this isn't any of your business, Call could be like, peace out, thanks for talking to me.
Barnabas is the headmaster of a university and has been for a while. He is used to very nervous people sitting across from him. Anyway, so if they are being accompanied by someone of high enough rank within the school, there's certainly no rules against it. Were they trying to enter somewhere that they are not allowed? That is where rules to stop persons being invisible start to take place.
Understood. Forgive my impertinence, but I gather by the fact that you're not asking follow-up questions means that you know to whom I'm referring.
I have a guess, but it would be imprudent for me to speak the name first.
Call's actually gonna laugh at that. Call's like, that's fair. That's fair. Call's going to say, also, as I've mentioned before, I am not well versed in the arcane arts or the cultural mores therein. I am curious by nature and have questions, but I do not wish to be insensitive, imprudent, or rude in the asking. May I keep asking questions, or would you rather I stop?
I'm the headmaster of a university. I usually award curiosity.
I'm glad to hear it. I was walking through the halls earlier today, and I got the impression that Great Servant Rawl was directing his conversation to someone physically in the same room. The gestures and mannerisms did not feel as though they were directed at some other source. So, as we were walking past in the hallway, I swung my arm out wide and I brushed against robes that did not belong to Great Servant Rawl.
He just kind of nods very slowly. Um, Give me another insight check.
God, I hope this one's better. Work for me, call dice. Oh, it's better. 14.
Okay. It's kind of hard to tell what his impression, or what his expression is saying. There's a little bit of amusement, but there's certainly more things that are not amused, that you're not really sure. You don't know the guy very well, aren't very used to reading the faces of centaurs. So you're not really sure, but he does say, I assume, among many others, part of the reason you are tiptoeing around this is the nature of Great Servant Rawl's power.
Less so than you might assume. In truth, the reason I'm tiptoeing is because this is a situation in which I might be intruding upon affairs that are not my business. If this was information that you did not know, I hesitate to start a situation that I have no business in. And if this is something that the majority of people don't know for good reason, then information like that is always one must always be cautious when inquiring further. So, in truth, it is more the nature of secrecy and not knowing who knows what than about Great Servant Rawl's individual arcane abilities. Curiosity is dangerous, so I try to tread carefully.
I'm sure your captain taught you that rather frequently.
And painfully.
He makes a little face and you're not quite sure what's going on there. Without getting too detailed, because at least part of this information is private and it is that of a individual who is of significantly higher rank than yourself. Great Servant Rawl's patron does not make a habit of walking the halls of this institution, whether visible or invisible. Honestly, the fact that you have proof is something I was not quite expecting. There have been others who have whispered and spread gossip of Great Servant Rawl speaking to an individual next to him rather than his normal stream of praise. And I will say, most of the time he is speaking to his patron. I don't. You mentioned there were 2 occasions you thought that he was speaking to an individual next to him?
I have gotten the impression before, but that is no more reliable than I would say the whispers of anyone else. This is the first time I have any bearing in reality to tie to that supposition.
He just nods as you speak. I don't suppose you caught any of the conversation.
Unfortunately, no. But if it does help, I have a bit of a background with the monastic tradition, and the robes that I touched when I was walking past them were definitely monastic robes.
Give me another insight check.
Mod 20.
He is. Well, you know what? I suppose, considering the sentence I was about to say, I should roll for it. He is attempting to hide his reaction to you saying that it is monastic. He looks a little like irritated, not with you. Like he looks like he is thinking of something that irritates him. And also it looks like he's having one of the like the little gif of the guy's face and all the numbers are coming across. Okay. It looks like he's having one of those moments as well as being a little annoyed about something he's thinking of. And after a moment, he nods a little bit, and he says, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I would suggest not spreading this information.
Of course.
I know that you owe report to your captain, and I'm not asking you to lie to your superiors or anything of the sort. Only do not spread this as if it were gossip."
Understandable. If it helps, I only know one person in the university.
He just kind of nods a little bit, and he's got. I'll let the mod 20 carry up. There's fondness on his face. uh, he continues to sit and think for a moment, and then says, "Do you have any other questions for me?"
No. You have been incredibly helpful and incredibly patient with me already. I greatly appreciate your time.
He gives like he is still seated, but he gives like a tiny bow, um, and uh, and then starts to stand, um, and leads you to the door.
Call will follow to the door and kind of just give a deeper incline of the head than Barnabas gave to them, and will make their exit.
He closes the door behind you very quietly, and uh, also the little bit that he walked around, he does not clip clop heavily because fancy centaur shoes. Um, but even then, like, your passive perception is fucking insane, and you did hear him walk, but he closes the door rather silently, and then you like don't hear him walk away from the door behind you.
In my head, there are two options. Either he's standing at the end of the door going, "What the fuck?" or he did the silencing spell and is going, "Motherfucker!" And I think those are the only two options. I refuse to accept an alternative.
He didn't like apparate somewhere else. He's like actively reacting to call.
Yeah, he's either very silently going, "Oh, I have such a migraine and I didn't need this right now," or he did the silencing spell and is cursing up a storm. Only
Or
option.
he's calling up Rawl, doing ascending to Rawl, like, bro, get the fuck in here. You know you weren't supposed to bring your monastery bitch into my house.
Again? We banished him for a reason.
It's like, I thought we talked about this. He's toxic and not good for you.
Call is going to decide that they've already pushed their luck today and is going to go back down to Ren's room.
All right.
And walk right on in. And Call is not going to immediately volunteer anything.
I picture that Ren was kind of just like lying back on his bed like this. He's just going to sit up and give like a very like, so how'd it go kind of face. Like,
Harry is also like sits up and like is like perched like, tell me every detail. What happened?
I don't know how horrible you were expecting it to be, but I think it went rather well.
Henry applauds immediately.
I get the impression that Barnabas knew who it was, but did not know that he was usually invisible that he has been invisible in the university. So I may have started some drama within the university between two people in positions of power, but Barnabas isn't mad at me, so I'm taking this as a win.
Henry laughs at that.
And at that point, Call's actually going to sit down and be like, "Okay, let me actually explain," and is going to recount the conversation a little bit more thoroughly and very heavily imply the, Barnabas asked me to keep this shit quiet, like you already knew, so doesn't fucking matter, but he asked me to keep it quiet.
Of course.
Yeah, so Call does actually like give a more a more explicit play-by-play and does not just give you guys the I messed shit up.
I'm impressed. Um, I do feel a little bad that I didn't accompany you, since I know Barnabas better in general, but you are a lot smarter than me, and so I'm certain that the conversation went better when you were leading it. So
I would not say I'm smarter than you, but I would say I'm really good at asking invasive questions.
you are. He says this in a positive way, like it's a compliment, not really like, oh yeah, you are, but like, yeah,
You are like sunshiny.
yeah.
Paul's gonna laugh at that. And I think, and Call's gonna follow up with, honestly, I think that it might not have played out the same way had you been there. It, as someone who wasn't actively involved in the university, and Oliver's being weird. I'm gonna keep talking though. As someone who is not actively involved in the university, there's almost a level of safety talking to me that there might not be talking to someone more involved.
I had the same feeling.
So, and also, the fewer people he talks with in that circumstance, the safer the conversation feels. So, I think it might have been for the best. Either way, I don't know who it was, and I was not about to ask. I think I've gotten more than enough information for today.
I'm very curious about what comes next.
I hope I didn't manage to do something wrong.
I don't think you did. Barnabas is reasonable. Master Barnabas. Ren always uses proper titles and shit. Jenny does not. Master Barnabas is reasonable. If you did just give him information that he is unhappy with, he would not take it out on the messenger, and he will respond appropriately. I wonder whether he will have questions for me or not. But I'm very interested to see what happens next. And yeah, why does Oliver do that? But so when do we want to talk to Captain Dawn?
I think Henry asks, well, when is she usually around to give a report?
That is a great question.
There is something that I wanted to do this afternoon. Should we maybe go in the morning tomorrow?
I think that sounds like a good idea. Especially if, Henry, that gives you time to help feel more confident in how you want to report.
Yeah. It would. I think I want to think about it, and yeah. Lots to decide.
I understand. I hope it goes well. I hope you feel confident and comfortable in your decisions regarding the conversation. Wow, that could have sounded really shady. I apologize for that.
Henry laughs.
Call-
Yes. You uncovered my plot. I've been dressing all of the courtyard bunnies in Santa hats. Or little sweaters is probably what you would have said.
Okay, I'm glad that's how Henry was taking it because when I heard Call say that just now, I was hearing like, I hope you're satisfied with the choices you made regarding like working with the hearts. And I was like, man, you shady bitch. Which is not how Call meant it, but that is what I heard. Okay. Um well, in that case, um I guess we go our separate ways until tomorrow morning. All right.
I've been nervous to do this for weeks. Um, should I go first since I have something that I want to do?
Yes.
All right.
Just real quick before you do. Um, do Call and Ren have anything that they're gonna do in this time?
No.
Nothing that requires RPing. Call's probably going to go to the training field.
Cool. Go ahead.
Uh, okay. Henry makes his way. I think he goes down to his room and freshens up, make sure that he doesn't look crazy. And just to verify, and goes, and I think he rebraids his hair to look a little bit more, I'm picturing like Viking warrior. Bronwyn, you disappear. Okay. Like less pretty braids and more like hunter, more masculine braids. If that makes sense. And definitely puts on his plate armor or his armor, and then goes to the Blood Hunter's Keep.
Alrighty.
Okay, so he walks there, and I think he is very cautious the whole way and is like looking around to see if anyone's following him. Re Blood Hunters, re Light Hands, re Captain Dawn and the Dozen, like to see if like anybody's trailing him, like wants to see like
Okay. Couple things. First, just for myself, I want you to roll me an intimidation check.
oh, okay, what dice? I'm gonna use my hefty dice for this. Intimidation. That's a charisma based. That's good. Good. It's a 19.
Excellent. Okay. And you are looking out for people, so give me a perception check.
5.
Excellent.
I see so many things.
You see so many things walking down a busy street in a highly populated city. Okay. It's fairly easy to get to the Bloodhunter Keep, because as you go down the hill from the keep of the city, it is by far the tallest building around. It's about 6 stories tall, and nothing else really comes that high. Like a low 3rd story is the tallest other than that. And it's on top of being 6 stories tall, it also has a crenellated tower. Like it is not a little frou-frou building. It is a building intended to be held defensively. So and also you've been there before, so it's not like you were going to get lost. So yeah, as you approach, you do hear the clang of metal on metal, but you can't see the source because the courtyard of the keep is walled in.
Okay. Um, so I've been thinking about this for weeks, as you know, and I feel like my Asher's charisma is not
hmm
enough for this. So can I just tell you what Henry would do and he can
Yeah.
Okay. Um, is my intimidation going to work as like my performance for this, do you think? Or should I roll a
Depends
separate
on what
performance?
you're asking to do.
Okay. Okay. Um, okay, so he wants to um he is gonna look around and try to see like which I rolled a 5, so I'm assuming I'm not gonna get any of this information unless you'd like to share. But he does want to like get there and see if there's like a coffee shop or restaurant or something that he could like sit in that's nearby to like monitor kind of like who goes in and out, like what's kind of going on with this place, if he wanted to kind of stake it out if he chickens out before going to the door.
Um, there on a 5, there's not really a good place to stake out the building. There are no shops of any kind in the immediate vicinity. You are deep into the rent house area of the city, um, and which is kind of why the Bloodhunter Keep does not match at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
you are surrounded by kind of rickety, run down a little bit wooden buildings that in some cases they're larger, like kind of apartment complex type things, but even then, like, don't go up very high because
Mm-hmm.
like the reason they're like only two or a low third story, like, doesn't look like if you were to add another story on top of that, the building would support the weight of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there is a stone structure that is well maintained.
Mm-hmm.
That it has. It is it's only about a 15-foot curtain wall, but still it's a curtain wall around a courtyard. The main keep building, as well as a few other lower portions. It's all one structure, so it's kind of um, like a semicircle of like building, and then this 15-foot curtain wall covers the rest of it to make almost a circle, but not perfectly. Um, there is one kind of main entrance, and then you, just having been here before, there is another entrance that is also like kind of gate-like as well. They're both just wooden doors, but they have kind of gatehouse type structures built around them. Um, as I said, 6 stories and change, the tower, and then the rest of the buildings solid stone, uh, slate roofs. Like, you, just to put it in a different frame of mind, you can't see anything on this structure that could be set on fire, other than the wooden doors that are iron banded. And also look pretty much like they're probably steel wood. Which roll a history check real quick, just because.
A 13.
Yeah, steel wood doesn't burn real good.
Mm-hmm.
um, like it is a fairly common practice to blacken it in fire, but it doesn't catch and burn easily. And the putting it in fire tends to, it just blackens and nothing else really changes. Um, that is the structure that you see. Um, given that
All right.
you can make your own decisions, but there's not to your eye, you don't see a good place that you could stake this out that you wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. Okay. So I think Henry was kind of expecting that of like, this is a group of generations old warriors. Even if there was a well-positioned place to stake out, they would see that I'm staking them out. So like he wasn't really expecting there to be a place, but he looked around and I'm glad for the confirmation. So I think Henry just takes a deep breath and sets his face to look as intimidating as he can, um, and goes and knocks on the door.
All right. You wait for a little bit, um, and then the door is opened by a face that you recognize, although it's been a hot minute. One second.
Alora?
No. Um, you see
Has?
a human man with kind of orange and black striped hair. Opens the door, looking a little cocky, and given that he is both a step higher than you and also a fairly tall man at 6'1", is kind of looking down at you. Doesn't seem condescending, but it does seem a little cocky.
Um,
He says
Henry
nothing. He just opens the door and looks at you.
Henry does not register that he should feel inferior in this position because he's always shorter than people. So he doesn't take this as a, oh no, I am cowed because I am short, because he's always short. Um, and uh, so he says, um, good afternoon. I am Henry Silverhammer. Um, as if you don't remember. And I okay, he wants to ask in the best words possible um what he would have to do to get an audience with Varric Garrus, but I don't think he would just ask outright like, "Hi, my name is Henry. Can I talk to your leader, please?" I
Take
think
me
he
to
would
your
like,
leader.
yeah, like I think he would like know a better way to ask than just straight up.
Um. Okay. Well. Okay. So then, roll me a persuasion check. Is the way we're gonna do this.
Okay, okay, not too bad, not too bad. 19.
Okay. Um. So it takes a little bit of small talk, and it
Yeah.
just because he opened the door and said nothing, he's not like he doesn't seem resistant to talk to you in any way. Um. He just kind of seemed like he didn't want to waste the time to get the pleasantry out that would get you to start doing what you did doing on your own anyway.
Mhm.
So there's a brief, pleasant exchange. Where I mean, he doesn't like turn you away immediately. He says, "Well, I mean, it's not that difficult to get a meeting with Varric. If you'd like, I could go check if he's available right now."
I would appreciate that.
He just closes the door, and you hear footsteps receding.
Yep. Henry looks unfazed and waits patiently.
Okay. 10 minutes go by. 15 minutes go by. Uh, and then over the wall, you hear some shouting. And by the way, all this time you've been hearing what sounds like some kind of duel happening. Like even before you approached, you've been hearing the clash of metal on metal.
Mm-hmm.
You hear some yelling, but it's kind of masked by the clashing, and also the tone of voice. Well, actually, the tone of voice is something that you would be familiar with, but it's been a while. And so it takes you a second to give me a perception check. We'll see if you hear what is said.
An 18.
Okay. So it takes you just a brief second to realize that the shouting is in Orcish, which is a language that you learned. You were not gifted, but so as such, having it not being magical means that you gained this language. You kind of have to take a second to realize the words that are being said. But they very much sound like just martial instruction in combat. So like, keep your shield up, that type of shit. And then you hear a low growl, and then a rather loud clatter, and then once again you hear the Orcish voice saying something about, all right, get up, dust yourself off. We'll get back to this later. And then just about a minute or two later, Varric Garrus himself opens the door. And he opens the door and like steps back as he is opening it inward. And he looks down at you and just cuz. I'm going to give a little bit of a description along with this. I believe have I given him a
in session 2.
Okay. So I thought that maybe I had done a NPC description of him in the chat.
Oh, I thought you had.
A quick search says no. I've given I made him in Hero Forge and I sent that, but I don't think. Anyway,
Right, he's a half orc. Okay.
He is a half orc. Which
Forgot about that.
as you know, is relatively uncommon in the area. Couple things. It's a very tall man. He's 6'4". He has just like pure white hair. On across his left eye from top down, there is a just kind of jagged, awful-looking scar that splits his eyelid. And his eye does not blink, and there is a soft red glow given off at his eye. That you have no idea what's going on. But his eye does softly glow. The pupils of both eyes are red. You can, aside from that scar on his head, he has bare arms. Not bare arms, but his arms are bare. Jenny wanted to sit up and say it.
I did too, honestly.
Absolutely covered in scars. What little you can see of his neck, which he is wearing like a chain shirt. What you can see of his neck has scars. Like the man is absolutely covered in scars. He has two sort of protruding tusks. Like they're not crazy, but he opens the door and steps back slightly, Um, and he looks at you and says, "Yes, Cass said you wanted to speak with me."
Sorry, timestamp. 117. Um, Henry says something like, yes, if you have, um, a moment, there is something of a sensitive nature that he would like to discuss
Um,
in private.
uh, he just motions for you to come into the doorway. The hallway, were it not for the torchlight, would be pitch black. There is no sunlight coming into this hallway. He closes the door behind you as you come in, and he says, "All right, go ahead."
Perception check to see if there's anyone around.
Go ahead.
The nat one, my guy. Um, Henry looks around, sees darkness, and goes,
There is
uh,
torchlight. It's not. You're not in the dark.
yeah, but like, doesn't see anything. Um, apparently. Um, oh God. I don't even know how to say this. So, but he eloquently says, with my 19 performance, eloquently says that,
19 intimidation, but yeah.
and performance,
You rolled a performance as well?
persuasion. Sorry,
Oh,
persuasion.
yeah.
So maybe, so yeah. Anyway,
The persuasion
uh,
was talking to Cass.
yeah. So I guess that wouldn't hold over. Um, Henry starts talking and tries to gauge what's on Varric's face as he's talking to see if at any point he needs to stop so they could go to like a more private location. But he also kind of understands like this is a brotherhood, and if Varric didn't keep these kinds of secrets, then you know. But just to get out with it, he says eloquently that he respects this order and knows of the good work that they have done for the city and from before it was even Storgard, and wants to torn between saying he wants to help. I think he says that he appreciates that they have their monster hunting, but makes it clear that when he says that, it's not like the right kind of monster, like the true monsters of this world or something like that.
All right, go ahead and give me an insight check for your reading his. Does he want to go and be more private?
15.
15. He makes no motion to stop you speaking. And I want you to know right now you are having a monologue. He's not interjecting. Um, and as of yet, you haven't asked a flat out question.
Yeah.
Um, so he just is sitting there silently as you talk. And I mean, I guess I need to. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. No, wrong button. Okay. Um. Sorry. Um. he sits there pretty unreadable. Um, After a little bit, he crosses his arms, but you don't get the impression that it's like I'm crossing my arms because I'm upset. He just crosses his arms.
Okay.
um, uh, and as you kind of slow, which I guess that you give me a persuasion check as well because you're not using your own words. You're letting Henry do the talking.
15.
Okay. Um, as you kind of finish what you're saying, he just says, "Thank you for your kind words." Um, you get the impression that he did understand what you meant by like killing the right kinds of monsters. Like
Mm-hmm.
you didn't say it in that many words,
Yeah.
but he does seem to have understood that. And he is still, but he doesn't really offer more other than
Mhm.
a thanks.
Can I look around again to see if there's people around or no?
Um, I will say this. If you look around again, he would notice that you are looking around a bunch. Not that I'm not to say that that's
Yeah.
bad, but
I think Henry looks around again and kind of lowers his voice.
go ahead and give me another perception check.
5.
Okay, so you get a little bit more information. You're in a hallway that there's a door behind you and there's a door ahead of you. There are 4 torches in this hallway and nothing else.
Okay, cool. So I think Henry lowers his voice a little bit, and says, um, and I think he mentions that he found the red journal book in the library that Varric himself wrote, and um, again alludes that like the right kind of monsters, and says, as of late, it seems that the category monster has widened, and I want to do everything that I can to try to um, get the category back to what it should be. But I am not sure the best way to go about it, and I want to offer my services if there's anything that I can do if you are already um, making that effort, doing something about that.
You know I don't report to Ander, right?
Uh, I think Henry smiles at that and says, "Yes, I assumed as much when I saw you in court a few weeks ago, but I also noticed that despite Count Anders' personal beliefs, he seems to have great respect for you."
You're observant. He doesn't take this long of a pause. I just am thinking. Um, I understand what you mean. Ander has been too quick with the axe. Uh, I have a few of mine that he would be all too happy to do away with.
Henry's expression visibly darkens at that.
But you're right. He does respect me. I'm doing what I can. If you're looking to help, well, Andrew's scared. He's scared of a lot of things. My philosophy is get rid of the things that he's scared of, that he actually needs to be scared of, and then show him that the rest isn't going to hurt him. So that being said, there ain't that many of us, but if you thin out the monsters in the area, then maybe he sends his standing army back outside of the walls and actually he pauses for a second and then kind of just looking at your expression, he says, then maybe they can do what they're supposed to do rather than sit in a barracks all day.
Uh, I think Henry thanks him for the like wise words, or like says like that sounds correct essentially, and then asks if mentions that there have been a lot of like they've cleared out a lot of Knoll and cultists, and he hasn't really heard anything about it. And he knows that there's still some ongoing investigation around. I think does some wordplay with axe because Varric said he was too quick with the axe. So use similar wording there, and then asks if there are any other monsters that within the city walls or any other reports that Varric might be aware of that Henry wouldn't, because the only thing that Henry is really aware of are the kobolds and draconians in the foothills.
Well, you can always check the bounty boards.
Yeah.
And he looks you over kind of in a little bit of a different way. He says, "You're in the Coral Light, aren't you?"
Yes, sir.
You know a fellow by the name of Patch?
He's my roommate and good friend.
If you want to do something other than kill monsters, maybe talk to him about it.
Henry looks very surprised, but nods.
Fuck.
Henry, fuck off.
For those at home, Jenny suggested that he kill Patch. No.
No.
Okay, but no, I was finishing your sentence for if you want to do something other than kill monsters, kill Pat.
That's what I was.
No.
That's what I was expecting first too.
I was super nervous that Ferris was to be like, well, fuck you, because Patch is the worst, and so I don't trust you.
getting
Patch, I love him.
let's get
I
back on
love him
track for a
so
minute.
much.
Let's get back on track for a minute. So yeah, he says talk to
Okay.
Patch if you want to do something other than kill monsters.
Okay. Is there an air of finality to this conversation?
He's not speaking, but that's not a new thing in this conversation.
Okay. Um, I think Henry's gonna thank him for his time and thanks him for, in so many words, for doing the right thing, and for his protection. Um, like the way, like for protecting the city and being good, doing good things. My brain is not working right now. I'm sorry. And then kind of makes a kind of motion that he doesn't have any other questions and will leave if there's nothing else that Varric wants to say.
um, when you thank him, he reacts like most like um, like members of the armed forces when people stop them in the grocery store to thank them for their service. How they're just like, yeah, okay. That's how he responds um, to that. But then, seeing that you seem to be done, he just kind of grunts and then like reaches past you and opens the door, like the door out.
Cool. Uh, Henry gets the hint, gives him a nod, and gets the fuck out. And goes to look for one of those bounty boards. What up? I didn't realize that was a thing.
Okay. Let's give me an investigation check.
For finding the board?
Yes.
I rolled really well, so it's a 19.
All right. You find one rather quickly. Um, it's not on y'all's like normal routes. But asking around just a little bit, there's not only one in the entire city. So you find one kind of in this area, and there's a whole bunch of just shit on there. So first of all, kind of across the top, on kind of like better quality paper, is a series of wanted posters that seem to have been put there by the city guard. So first of all, you see a dwarf woman that has no name, and there is just a reward. There is a reward of 50 gold for information about this person. There is uh, a there's actually more than one poster for the slice. Some of them are on really fancy paper, like super fucking rich people are posting this, and then there is one that's also by the city. You notice there's a few posters, none of them have the same picture. None of them really look similar. It is a person with dark hair or wearing a cloak. That's it. There's another poster of a woman in a hijab who is the name is listed as the widow, and it is 400 gold for capture of this person. And then still a wanted person, but it's not like a city flyer. There is a really, really shitty drawn but very obvious Yuan Ti that is apparently named Chris. And there is a reward in non-standard kind of currency.
Hmm.
If you want to give me a history check, you can try to do the conversion.
Yeah, I've been all around. I should know things. The 4. Hot 4.
Probably about $1.50. Um,
Or like in Sealdish, right?
so
Haildish.
those are the wanted posters.
Hmm.
Other than that, there's just like descriptions of things that are happening. One is a report of weird noises in the industrial district by a warehouse. There is reports of missing persons. Like you see a couple that are just like up separately, and then there's also a more official looking list of names that mention that they are from the southwestern area of the city, which is the like working class, but you own your own home type area. There is a request for hunters for cave fishers, and it just says see Carrig at the docks.
Cave fishers.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then there is a very similar posting, but doesn't seem to be from the same place, requesting basilisk saliva.
Hmm.
And then you also see a post that, once again, a little bit better quality than the Auntie poster, but still not like good quality paper. That says there is a small devil that has been spotted in the rent districts, and it says beware of trickery.
Henry takes that one down.
All right.
Okay. Is that all?
That is all on this bounty board. Yes.
Okay. I know we saw a patch on our way out of the gate at one point. Would I know if he's stationed there today?
Um, I would say that because you have mentioned to me that you make small talk with him whenever you see him, you would know that
Mhm.
he is typically stationed at the gate.
Okay.
Like it's not the only responsibility he ever has, but that is usually his job.
Um, cool. Are we good to keep playing, or do y'all want to head off soon?
11:30.
Maybe 20 more minutes, unless this is the best stopping point.
I mean this.
I don't want to
This
talk
is
to Patch.
yeah.
If you think it's going to take more than 20 minutes, then let's stop
Nah,
here.
go ahead and talk to Patch, and then
Yeah, I think.
we'll call it.
Yeah.
Good, give me some time to think about what Henry's going to say to Zerka. Because I don't fucking know.
All right. So
Oh.
are you going straight to Patch, or straight to the gate
Um,
that he is working at?
I think since Henry did so well on his investigation check, I think if he knows that there are, like, because he knows where he is and where the gate is, and if there are other um places he could see posters, that he would kind of go that way, unless it's like really far out of the way. He would head
Okay.
up those spots.
Here's what I'll say. I'll say you did that, and that's how you got all of these, because, like I said,
Okay.
they're scattered throughout the city, and you got 3 different areas of the city warnings.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm gonna say the warehouse in the industrial district. That was a happy fluke for you that you got to see that, because you wouldn't be anywhere near that
Mm.
district. But you do hit another one on the way to the gate, and that's where you see. And so that also gives a little bit of a credence to the different picture posters of the slice.
Mm.
Um, and that's also where you see, so on your way to the gate, kind of going through that district where there's like people own their own home, but it's still working class. That's where you see the report of the missing persons,
Mhm.
and also um, the the woman known as the widow. That's where you would have picked
Mm.
where you would have seen those two.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Then I go see Patch.
I will say, just on top of that, there are some other like wanted posters, but they're like wanted for thievery, wanted for brawl. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
crazy crimes, and they're also just like not interesting, which is why I don't bring them up. But there's lots of them because that's just how this kind of thing works.
Cool, cool.
All right, so you're going to look for Patch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you do spot him at the gate. I'm gonna say with the travel required, we are probably pushing 3 or 4 p.m. Um, so he's not like on a break. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like there's no chance that he's about to go on his lunch, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um, so you see him still checking, throwing out some cantrips every once in a while to check over the baggage of merchants and such, and also from talking to him previously that he is rather extensively looking for any signs of the death um,
Mm-hmm.
coming in or out, um, and he looks to be taking that job seriously. So he's rather thoroughly inspecting carts and such.
Okay. I think Henry's gonna stand there and wait until there's like a opening where he could talk to him for just like a second. Um, and like greets him and stuff and then says like there's something important I want to talk to you about. What time will you be back to the room tonight?
Um, he's a little surprised to see you, and he's like, "Hi, Henry."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then he kind of like looks around to double check that he doesn't need to be doing something immediately, and he's like, "Oh, well, I should be back around eighth bell."
All right. Okay. Um, well, good luck. I'll see you then. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Give me.
Insight check.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not great. 10.
He's your friend.
Yeah, okay. Um, okay. Um, well, is there anything else that Okay, so Henry, we don't have to roleplay this, but Henry realizes that it's pretty obvious he went to the Hearts this morning, and if they're going to report to Captain Dawn tomorrow, he wants to like do more in the city to make it seem like he could have found out more this afternoon. So I think he's going to go and on like a joy spreading mission, um, but nothing that of note, nothing important.
Are you just going to be spreading joy, or are you going to like ask questions of any side? Like, are you going to ask questions around kind of do try to do some intel gathering?
I think Henry is gonna mostly joy spreading, but if there's someone that looks like if somebody was following him or watching him, he wants to make it seem like he could also be asking for information. And if there's someone who seems like it, he would also ask.
Okay, so give me two separate perception checks.
Okay, the first one is a 17, and the second one is an 18.
Okay. Um, 17 is enough to notice that you are not being tailed the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
but it does seem like you are being watched from time to time.
Okay.
And 18. Um, why did I make you roll twice? Oh yeah, the second one was if the second one was an investigation check, what is it instead?
Um, 16 plus 1 is 17.
Okay. Um, okay. Um, you actually do come across a couple people that you feel like could possibly give you actual information. So go ahead and give me a persuasion check.
17. I rolled all different numbers, but my modifiers are making them all 17.
Okay. Through a few different questionings, um, you would you use the phrase light hands questioning anyone? Okay.
No.
So you don't bring it up, but a couple different people mention the name of the light hands. One person says it as if it's a ghost story, uh, and another person says it as if it's a ghost story that they believe. Um, and then some other people seem more reverent about it, of like good people type thing. Um, so the information you gather is that there are people throughout the town willing to talk about the light hands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they don't really give they don't give you they certainly give you no new information.
Mm-hmm.
But they you kind of get the idea that it's like these are people that if you have a problem you can go to them and they might solve it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's about what you get from that loose investigation.
Does anybody say have any negative vibes about the light hands?
Well, there's some people that are batshit scared of them. Like
Oh, okay.
some people talk of them as if they are like a scary story to tell your kids before they go to bed.
Oh, okay. Do they say anything specific of like what is scary about them?
I mean, there's the like so some of them jokingly say I mean, if you stay out too late, then they'll kill you in an alley. Um, some of them say that they are just scary people. The majority of people don't talk about them like they're ghost stories, but they're still like some people kind of reference them as a gang, and some people reference them as protectors.
Okay, so overall vibe that Henry should walk away with, because also when we were talking earlier as a group about like should we try to like bring the Light Hands to justice or not, and Henry wasn't sure. What is the overall vibe that Henry gets from the people? Like, do they seem like they're doing more harm than good or more good than harm, amongst the poll that he is essentially taken?
It's kind of all over the place.
Okay.
Um, I
Are
will.
there any concrete reports of like them doing bad things to people? I guess like common folk people.
Everyone that you talk to talks about how they knew a guy who knows of them.
Mm,
Like nobody has. You don't talk to anyone who has a first-hand experience.
mm,
There are some people that talk about, some people say, oh yeah, that's the reason you don't walk the streets at night is because the light hands will come and beat the shit out of you in an alley.
okay.
All right.
So I want to talk to Patch at 8th Bell, and I also want to do sending tonight. Is there anything that Call and Ren are doing that they want to talk about?
Nothing at all this whole afternoon.
Call is working out in the training fields for a while, and after that is probably just going to try and spend some quality time with Jax because they haven't seen much of Jax in the past fucking month and change. So, catch up with their friend.
All right.
Ren might check in with the ring again.
Okay.
Just like, a usual check-in unless it has something.
The ring is still very, very quiet. But it doesn't. Nothing new. It's just very quiet. When it responds to you, it feels like a whisper rather than like full spoken voice. All right, so jump to Patch. So is Henry like waiting in the room for Patch to come back?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Can we do sending first?
I think that sending happens at like 10 p.m.
Okay. All right. Cool. So let's do Patch.
Alrighty. So it's actually kind of closer to the 9th bell when he finally does come in. Uh, what's your passive perception?
Well,
You just like sitting in your room, you see that Patch has left out like his like duty schedule. Um, and just like kind of glancing over at it, you notice that he is his shift at doing what he is doing at the gates ends at 6th bell every day. Every day, at least on this sheet, which this is like for this week.
mm-hmm. Noted. Interesting. Okay. I wonder what he's doing.
So, like I said, not quite 9th bell. He comes in, looks very, very tired, which he has been like every day that you have been there when he has returned to the room, he looks absolutely beat. So he comes in and says, "Oh, evening, Henry. How can I help you?"
I think Henry asks after his well-being and, friend stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then says that he paid a visit to Garrus this afternoon and asked about Henry wants to get a gauge on what Patch thinks about Anders' monster fear. Is there a way that he can kind of like bring up the execution or bring up Ander in a way that he can get a insight check on Patch?
Certain. I will say that this will have happened like previously, because this would
Okay.
like I feel like this type of thing could have come up in small talk previously. So just go ahead and give me give me an insight check. Yeah.
What's advantage?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, it didn't help. Uh 17. So many 17s.
What is this, your fifth?
Yeah.
So but like before this conversation, like Patch is already a little nervous himself. Like Fearbolgs aren't typically seen as monstrous, but also they're not one of the like normal humanoids, so he's a little nervous for himself. And aside from that, he does not like what happened with Vist. Even though he does not know the details to the level that y'all know them, he does know how quickly the trial went, quote unquote trial there, which there wasn't one. And he is unhappy with that, and he doesn't like that it's like he seems to have gathered that Vist was killed for being a Yuan-ti rather than crimes committed, and he's not happy about that. So you know that going into this conversation.
Okay. Okay, so then Henry says he paid a visit to Varric Garrus, because he wanted to know if there was anything he could do to stop or to help, Ander redefine what a monster is, essentially. And Varric pointed him to Patch.
He There's like a brief moment where he looks a little scared when you first bring up Varric.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you say that Varric pointed you to him, he relaxes a little bit, and then like something seems to click in his mind, and he fully relaxes, and he says, "Henry, I was scared. I probably should have talked to you about this before, but I didn't want to drag you into it because I didn't know how much it mattered to you, but I should have known." Um, and then he gets real scared again. His eyes like pop open, and he looks at the door. And then he like grabs you by your shoulder and like brings you over like into the corner, and like sits down on his bed with you, and like gets close to you and starts whispering. He says, I don't want anyone to overhear us. I've been sneaking people who are afraid that they might be um, discriminated against because of their heritage. I've been sneaking them out of the city.
Henry just gives him a crushing hug. And it says, Patch, you are a good soul. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that.
He full returns the hug.
Ah!
And he just says, if from time to time, I mean, I'm not the only one. I'm kind of a part of a network. I get some messages from Varric, uh, and then some others. Some people come to me themselves. Honestly, that scares me the most. I don't really want people to know that I'm doing it because that means I've totally thrown his voice out the window. I don't really want people to know that I'm doing it because then it could get out, and if something happens to me, then I can't help more people. And but for the most part, it's Varric and then Karina.
Karina?
I don't actually meet her. She just leaves me notes, and it'll have a place on it, and how many people and what race they are. And I make arrangements with a couple of merchants that I you know I make arrangements with merchants. We hide them in carts, and I make sure the other guards, don't look too close when they're on their way out the gate.
Uh, Thank you for telling me. Thank you for trusting me. Um, if I wanted to help, could I?
Uh, yeah. Hmm. I mean, you could volunteer to work the gates. But don't you have other stuff that I mean, it'd be a big block of time just standing at the gate, doing that actual job. Aren't you doing other things?
Yeah, I have some other tasks that I'm assigned that I probably wouldn't be able to do that.
Uh, well, of course, if anyone ever seems scared, you could always send them to me.
Mhm.
Uh, I, I mean, I'm the gate guard, so it's pretty easy for me to get them out. And I can't do more than four at a time, uh, like four in one carriage. But I've done as many as 30 in one day. Uh, that was a crazy day. I don't want to do that many in one day again.
Wow. Yeah, Henry was like, yeah, that's sounds like a lot. Um, yeah. I think Henry asks a clarifying question of, are these I think Henry's just a little confused of like what specifically are they like why are they being snuck out? Are they so why are they being snuck out if they were in the city before kind of thing?
Well, first of all, a lot of a lot of them would be unnecessarily held over at the gates. And then there's a story going around that uh, Vist was just caught and then they killed him. So, and he wasn't caught doing anything.
Mm.
So a lot of folk are scared. I think I have fully changed his voice. I'm sorry, but uh, I, I mean, mostly what I've been sneaking out is, yeah, I've completely changed it. Is the Yuan-ti. There's not that many of them, but the ones that want to get out, they just they find a way.
I think when he says that, Henry mentions that there was a flyer for a Yuan-ti named Chris, and Henry asks, "Did you sneak him out? Because if so, I can go take that poster down."
Um, uh,
Henry the poster thief.
he says, "Oh, well, Chris was a she, but yeah, yeah."
Oh, well, um, I will see if I can get that poster sneakily taken away.
Well, honestly, if there's people looking for her in the city, then those same people aren't looking for her out of it.
That's true. Okay, yeah. So yeah, never mind. I'll leave it up. I think Henry mentions that there is a little girl, a little tiefling girl, um, and he doesn't know if she would want to get out, but he says, maybe if I might come to you if she, is scared.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Henry gives him another hug and says, thank you for being a good person. God. Yeah.
All right. Long hug it out session in the Core of Light.
hmm
You'd think those would happen more often than they do.
uh, cool. Sending?
Yeah, you can do sending. You sent it to me
Okay.
earlier, but I didn't actually look at it.
Okay, so if you look at it, there's a top one and there's a bottom one. I rolled to see which one I should send. Um, if it's just a straight wisdom check, it's a mod 20. If it's like an insight check into Bennett, it's a 23. Which one do you think I should send?
I feel. Sorry. Um, so you rolled. What did you get on the die?
18.
Okay.
So either a 20 or a 23, depending on if it's wisdom or insight.
Um. Hmm. I mean, either way, it's high. Um. I feel like the second one. I think you should send the second one.
Okay. I do that.
Okay. By the way, is joke next included?
He like it is included in the words. He does say that, but he's like
Mm.
whispering it
Yeah,
kind of.
gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Um, one second. Hmm. Man, I'm good at this. I'm good at typing out the message, checking the word count, and it's always under 25. And I guess we'll end the session with a bout of silence. Um,
Sorry that Henry took so long on so many things.
He had a lot of stuff to do. He's a busy man.
Don't worry, Call had a whole conversation with Barnabas that no one was there for.
Alrighty. So I'm gonna go ahead. Thursday for next session.
Friday?
Not
Friday?
Friday.
Not Friday.
Not Friday. Okay.
Thursday
Thursday
works better for us. We have to drive to Dallas on Friday because Rachel has a bridal shower on Saturday.
Well,
Ooh,
I hope
nice.
she can get nice and clean. With that, we'll go ahead and end the stream.